The San Antonio Spurs brought out the one strategy that not even the great Greg Popovich could have thought of for tonight's game against the Oklahoma City Thunder, when they deployed nuns to their basketball game, absolutely destroying the devil magic of the Oklahoma City Thunder. TikToker Jared McCain went 1 for 10. Alex Caruso, who had been shooting the lights out of the basketball, went 0 for 1 for the game. Jalen Williams, 1 for 7 and 1 for 7 from 3 for the basketball game. Cason Wallace was 2 for 8. And the man who gets on the deck and flops like a fish, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 6 of 15 in an absolutely dominating performance by the San Antonio Spurs, led by their superstar, the best player in the world, Victor Wembanyama. And there's so much I love about this game, from the adjustments that Mitch Johnson made to the adjustments in the mindset of Victor Wembanyama coming into this basketball game versus the previous two that they had lost. We are now 2-2 heading back to Oklahoma City for Game 5. I believe that one is Tuesday night, so we got to lock in. If you love the NBA, make sure you take a second to subscribe. We're covering every NBA game for the rest of the playoffs, so it would be greatly appreciated. So let's get into it. Early in the game, Victor Wembanyama was super aggressive, and that's something that I had kind of talked about in the previous two games. He was really low in shot attempts in the first half of last game. I think it was only four or 5 or 6, somewhere right around there. But he just wasn't shooting the basketball at a high clip. And tonight he came out a man possessed to win the basketball game. We know in Game 3 they got up 15-0. Well, tonight in the game they got up 19-8. They went on a 12-0 run. They were up 15 at one point in the first quarter again. And you know that the Thunder are going to fight back. And you know, we saw it in Game 3. You got to keep your foot on the gas. And that is what the San Antonio Spurs did. The Thunder had only scored 8 points from Isaiah Hartenstein, just hitting little mid-range floaters, throwing them way up over Wemby. You knew that was not a sustainable form of offense. And the Oklahoma City Thunder could not get anything going on the offensive end of the court. It is crazy how different their offense looks when they're not being officiated in a way that just hands them free throws. They start to turn the ball over at a high clip. You notice they're taking bad shots, and a lot of times they, particularly Shai, will drive or shoot with the intention to get fouled rather than make the shot. So when the ref doesn't call the foul, it ends up being a terrible shot, air ball, turnover, whatever, and it really just changes the dynamic of the game. So the Spurs started, Wemby was really aggressive early. Defensively, they were getting their hands on a lot of balls. Great job getting their hands on balls tonight. And Mitch Johnson's energy was really contagious, I thought. The way that he was hyping up his players when they make a good defensive play. If you look on the contrary, in the Eastern Conference Finals right now, Kenny Atkinson delivered a pregame speech, and I don't know if any of you saw it, but it's worth looking up. Pregame speech for the Cleveland Cavaliers, where he was leaned back in his chair, delivering a pregame speech to go try to win a pivotal Game 3 against the New York Knicks. Well, the flip side is the way that Mitch Johnson came out and coached his team tonight. So much energy, so much passion, and you could tell he had his guys ready to play, and it was so contagious. They changed the way they played defensively. We saw in the first 3 games, they primarily try to focus on keeping Shai at bay, guarding him with multiple guys. They left a lot of shooters open. That's why Alex Caruso was going off. Jared McCain, Jalen Williams had all shot the ball really well. Well, tonight they defended straight up a little bit more, and it really shut down all the role players of the Oklahoma City Thunder, and Shai couldn't get anything going. And that is something that I had talked about, because the San Antonio Spurs have good enough defenders to guard Shai straight up as long as he's not getting a million free throw calls. They can guard him straight up and make the game difficult on him without having to double or triple team. They can focus on taking the rest of the guys out of the game and defending Shai Gilgeous-Alexander straight up, and I thought they did a great job of that tonight. They forced multiple shot clock violations in the first half, and you could just tell they were playing at a high level. Up 28-19 at the end of the first quarter. Going into the second, Thunder start to make a little run. Spurs punch back. Going into halftime, 50-38, when Victor Wembanyama, think about this, what the sentence I'm about to say. The unanimous MVP, 7'4", first-team All-NBA Victor Wembanyama hit a half-court buzzer beater looking just like Steph Curry. It is unbelievable the capabilities of this human being. He's just on such a different level from, every athlete I've ever seen that size. I mean, we've hardly ever seen an athlete that size. But his skill set and his fluidity. Before the game, Shaquille O'Neal was critical of him because Shaquille O'Neal is critical of everybody in the modern NBA, but saying that he wasn't giving enough in the last 2 games. But my whole point with Wemby is when he's on the court, the Spurs are a plus 50 for the series. The problem has been when he's come off the court and tried to get some rest, they've really struggled. And I like Luke Cornett, but this is just not a good matchup for him against the Oklahoma City Thunder. It's just been a tough go for him so far. But when Wemby is on the court, they have absolutely dominated. What I just wanted to see was a little more aggression early in the game. Sometimes you see players do this, especially, young players, young teams. It can feel like the game just starts to get away from you and you haven't really, made your imprint as much as you had hoped. Well, tonight Wemby started the game out saying, give me the basketball, get out of my way. He had a 3 on the very first possession of the game. I believe De'Aaron Fox got the offensive rebound. Wemby took a shot. Fox got the offensive rebound, kicked it out to Wemby, who drilled a 3. And the great thing about this is the Spurs, some of their other players didn't even perform all that great. Keldon Johnson has had a pretty rough series, 3 of 12 from the field tonight, and they still pretty much dominated this basketball game. So just to finish up kind of the flow of the game here, coming into the third quarter, great job by the Spurs, maintaining that momentum. Sometimes it's hard to come out of halftime with a lead, and the other team starts to fight back, and you can feel that lead slowly dwindle, but the Spurs only build it up, leading 78-60 after 3 quarters. And the Thunder, is a great offense. In the 4 quarters, the Thunder scored 19 points, 22, and 22. It is unbelievable to hold a team, their highest scoring quarter, to 22 points in the modern NBA. What a great job defensively by the San Antonio Spurs. And yes, we know J-Dub is out. We know A.J. Mitchell was out. We know both of those guys are out. We don't know if they'll come back for this series. And yes, those guys are important on the offensive end of the court for the Oklahoma City Thunder. But again, when the refs don't officiate the game in a way that allows the Thunder to play their little mind tricks and flop and do all this nonsense, it really makes them look not as great. Last game, there were 66 free throws in the game, which was way too many. 33 by both teams. Tonight, it was 18 by the Oklahoma City Thunder. That's such a drastic difference, and their turnovers really high in comparison to the San Antonio Spurs, and that's where the Spurs had kind of struggled in this series. We know Stephon Castle had, I believe, 11 turnovers in Game 1, 9 turnovers in Game 2. Well, tonight, the Spurs finished the game with 13 turnovers to the Thunder's 20. And all of that stuff really matters, and it starts to show a shift in maturity and strategy, all those sorts of things. We know Mitch Johnson is a young coach, so how will you adjust throughout a playoff series? Because the great coaches are able to make little adjustments here or there, play one guy more in a particular game. Or, Harrison Barnes, he was like 0 for 4 to start the game. I don't even know let me see what he finished up. He finished the game 0 for 4, but I thought he had brought in a lot of energy off the bench. He was getting offensive rebounds. He hit 5 free throws. And just came in and kind of provided a nice little spark. I think Mitch Johnson pushed all the right buttons tonight. And we watched Game 3, and one of the things you kind of felt was, is this Spurs team showing their youth? It's certainly a question mark, a team that has so little playoff experience. How are they going to perform in their first conference finals for almost all of these players, except, I believe Kelly Olynyk has been in the conference finals, and Luke Cornett. But how are they going to perform under the pressure, under the stresses, when the offense isn't working, when the momentum doesn't feel like it's on your side? How will you respond? And in Game 3, it felt like the Spurs were playing a little bit like a young basketball team. Tonight, when the Spurs are clicking, they are so elite, and it's why I think they're the best team in basketball and going to win the championship this year. But I was just really impressed by what they were able to do. And in the fourth quarter, Wemby hardly played at all, but he still finished the game with 30, I believe it's 33 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, and 3 blocks, and was a plus 29. You could tell just the dominating way he was playing this basketball game. He plays with such an edge. He talks trash. I could not love watching the San Antonio Spurs play basketball more than I do. And I think that they're set up in a great spot. Obviously, we know that there's 2 of the last 3 games are in Oklahoma City. And, Game 6 being in San Antonio. We knew this was going to be a long series, 6 or 7 games. It officially is at least going 6. But I really am optimistic now about where the Spurs can be, here in a few games. If you look at, and part of the reason I'm so optimistic, if you look at the every statistical category, the Spurs dominated this basketball game. They shot better from 2. They shot better from 3. The Thunder were only 18% from 3, which is crazy. They out-rebounded them. They had more assists, steals, blocks, lower turnovers, more fast break points, more points in the paint. In every aspect of this basketball game, the San Antonio Spurs gave the Thunder that belt. And really, part of the reason I started this podcast was because there's a lot of negativity in the modern NBA media towards the game and towards the players. And I really love the sport of basketball, and I love the NBA. I love the league, and, watching the athletes do incredible things. But gosh darn it, I can't watch this Oklahoma City Thunder team. It is not fun for me. And I'm just begging the San Antonio Spurs to find a way to win this series, because a Knicks Spurs NBA Finals would be awesome. Madison Square Garden with Victor Wembanyama, it would just be cinema. It's exactly what I want. So please, San Antonio, find a way to close out this series and take down the bad guys. It would be much appreciated from all of us fans of the NBA. That is all we got for you regarding tonight's game. Appreciate y'all watching. Again, don't forget to subscribe. We just passed 1,400 subscribers. Cyborg out.